Hey guys, and welcome to another edition to the Get Started series. In this series we're going to be giving you all the information you need to get started on Disc Priest. This includes talents, Azerite traits, stats, healing, damage, and even more. First up, let's start with talents. Disc Priest talents depend a lot on what comp you're facing and how you'll be playing versus that certain comp. But in general, as a baseline, your talent should look like this. But we'll cover every talent in detail and what you change versus certain comps later. On the level 15 row you have the choice between Castigation, Twist of Fate or Schism. Castigation will make your penance deal an extra bolt over its cast. This gives you a little extra damage and healing whenever you cast penance. However, this is nothing compared to the damage and healing you gain via Twist of Fate, offering you vastly more. Also, it doesn't rely on getting the full channel of penance off to be effective. As for Schism, it's not worth the cast time or global for the damage and effect it brings, so it's recommended you take Twist of Fate in all scenarios. Next up are the level 30 talents. On this row you should be swapping between two abilities. These are Masochism and Angelic Feather. First up is Masochism. This gives you a 10% damage reduction after casting ATONEMENT on yourself, and also removes the damage over time effect, giving you a little extra healing. So it's great when you think you'll be the target of the enemy team's focus. Angelic Feather offers you or members of your team a little extra mobility on demand. So it's great for when you feel like you won't need the damage reduction from Masochism, but could use a little extra mobility. Body and Soul was nerfed in BfA, and now only gives you the speed benefit every 6 seconds. As its main use was dispel protection, it's now considered quite useless, as purging shields is not really very useful considering how weak they are. As for the level 45 talents, you have the choice between Shield Discipline, Mindbender, and Power Word Solace. Shield Discipline gives you mana back for every time your shield is completely absorbed. With how Shield is basically Plea from Legion, you only really want to a shield to apply Atonement outside of Rapture. So this doesn't really give you all that much mana back unless you are incorrectly using Power Word Shield. Power Word Solace offers you a little extra mana over the other two, if used on cooldown, but is adding globals that could otherwise be used for something more important. So it's advised that you take Solace versus comps where you really need to extend your mana. Mindbender, however, should be the default choice. It's less globals, which in turn gives you more free time to do damage or healing, thus more pressure. The level 60 talent choices are for crowd control. With Dominant Mind not working in PvP, this gives you the option to choose between Shining Force and Psychic Voice. Psychic Voice reduces the cooldown of your fear by 30 seconds, and should be taken by default in comps where you should be needing to get extra CC chains, or land fears off cooldown to win. However, Shining Force can be a great option versus comps where you'll be getting trained, or can abuse Z-axis maps to knock down targets. Next up is the level 75 tier. On this tier you have two options, Sins of the Many and Contrition. Sins of the Many increases your damage by 12%, but diminishes for every ally you have Atonement on by 2%, but you cannot go beneath 3% damage. Contrition simply makes your penance do a little extra healing on targets that have Atonement. In PvP, the best option here would be Sins of the Many, simply due to the damage you gain resulting in more AoE healing via Atonement than Contrition would otherwise give you. However, in larger scale PvP such as Battlegrounds, Contrition would equate to more healing. For the level 90 talent choices, you have the option to choose from Purge the Wicked, Divine Star, and Halo. On this road, Divine Star and Halo are both lackluster in PvP, so the best option is always Purge the Wicked, giving you more damage and the ability to spread your pain via penance, saving mana in the process. Finally, last up is the choice between Lenience, Luminous Barrier and Evangelism. Due to Evangelism not really being very useful in PvP, as keeping Atonement up is not much of an issue, so we're left with Lenience and Luminous Barrier. Lenience is better in 3v3 due to the fact 3% damage reduction permanently is far greater value than the average size shield you gain every 2 to 3 minutes. However, Luminous Barrier can be combined with Dome of Light on a talent for insanely bursty rushdown comps to help you survive. Barrier is also better in Battlegrounds due to it affecting all allies in a 40-yard range. Gladiator's Medallion should be taken versus compositions that have a moderate amount of CC combined with high burst damage, where you will often have to get out of a CC to be able to survive. Great examples of this are versus Rogue Mage, where sitting a blind can result in you losing the game. Relentless can be considered versus comps with a high amount of CC but low burst damage, such as Shadow Priest Mage, where they will often look to kill in long CC chains rather than burst you down, so having that reduced overall reduction can help over the course of a long game. For Disc, there are two talent choices considered default for Arena. First up is Archangel. This refreshes all Atonement and gives you a 30% healing buff. This is vital for giving you that extra bit of must-needed burst healing to counter enemy offensive cooldowns or top partners once coming out of crowd control. Next up is Power Word Radiance. This gives you a must-needed instant AoE heal. Now that Plea is replaced with Shield, you have no instant healing outside of Purge the Wicked, and the small shield Power Word Shield provides, so this makes Radiance an important tool to recover from when behind. For the third slot, you have a few options that you are going to choose based off the situation. We'll go over each one now and cover what situation you should be combining it with the two must-have talents. Premonition gives you the ability to get out of crowd control you might not otherwise be able to avoid, such as Polymorph, Trap, Fear, Paralyze and even Blind. Using this ability before the crowd control is about to hit will make it break from the damage you receive when pressing it. However, this ability is also vital for rated battlegrounds as it helps refresh your atonements, and the healing you gain for your teammates also cannot be overlooked. Trinity should be taken versus comps with high consistent damage, or where you know will be able to get a lot of damage off. Trinity boosts all your healing via Atonement by 20%, with the drawback of not being able to apply Atonement to more than 3 targets, which is not much of a drawback for Arena at all, meaning this talent is great for countering AoE pressure and should be taken in all situations where possible. Dome of Light is great for countering rushdown burst comps that will do nothing but attempt to rush you down as fast as possible. This gives you a very strong extra defensive that will help you survive where you would otherwise die, and is great combined with the Luminous Barrier talent to give you a huge absorb. Searing Light can be specifically taken in 2v2, where you will find yourself smiting a lot. This can be great when combined with some more aggressive talents, when you don't need the extra healing to survive. Purification can be taken in rare situations versus mage teams, where you need to keep your team hyper-aggressive and out of crowd control, giving you the ability to dispel your teammates twice as often. Dark Archangel should be considered when none of the above apply, but you need that extra bit of burst damage to finish off the enemy team in a setup. This talent can be great for setup based comps such as Rogue Mage and Rogue Boomkin. For Disc, you should be looking to stack 2 primary stats, and these are Haste and Critical Strike. Both of these help boost your damage, thus giving you more healing via Atonement. Versatility is okay, but loses value if you are not the target being focused, and Mastery only affects your healing and not damage, thus loses a lot of value. As for enchants, you will be looking to maximize haste on every slot where possible, so haste on both rings and quick navigation on weapon. For trinkets, you'll primarily be wanting haste trinkets, combined with intellect main stat, preferably on use so you can time them with moments where you are free to do damage or need the extra healing. The ideal Azerite traits you wanted to aim for is to have 2 of the trait Wheel and Woe, combining this with 1 of the trait Battlefield Precision for the Alliance or Battlefield Focus for the Horde. Wheel and Woe will simply give you a good mix of damage and healing, whereas 1 Battlefield trait will give you and your team a little extra damage on the target. However, you can also opt to play a more aggressive setup that combines well with Trinity versus Dot setups, and that's to have again 1 Battlefield trait, but this time combining it with 2 Gift of the Forgiveness traits for the increased smite damage. Meaning your smites are going to be doing a lot of healing and hitting extremely hard, enabling you to do some insane AoE healing. Last up is the more defensive option, and that is to pick 3 of the trait Depth of the Shadows. This increases your Shadow Mend healing substantially, and giving you a better chance to survive versus rushdown or very single target heavy comps. Despite those being the main traits, there are still some secondary traits you will be wanting to aim for. These are to have at least 1 Synergistic Growth and 1 Longstrider. As you are stacking haste, Longstrider will give you a little extra mobility, allowing you to more easily kite and land Psychic Screams. Synergistic Growth, however, will give you a little extra mastery provided by your AoE healing. This can help aid in topping people fast coming out of crowd control. Last up, let's do a quick recap on how to heal and keep your team alive as a Discipline Priest. As a Disc Priest, healing is quite complex. You have no rotation per se, but more adapt your healing based on the situation. You have 2 main forms of healing: casted heals and then the healing you can do via Atonement. You're going to have to make sure you find a balance between the 2, focusing on AoE healing when required and then making sure to pump single target heals when needed. For AoE healing, you will first want to make sure you have Atonement up. If you are playing Trinity, you will need to do this via Power Word Shield. If not, all casted heals and Radiance will apply Atonement. Once you have Atonement up, you will first want to get a Purge the Wicked up, and then to Penance off cooldown on an enemy for the AoE healing, and then Smite as a filler, looking to prioritize Penance in a target that already has Purge the Wicked out, so you can spread the debuff. You should be using Radiance when you need the burst healing to top off people, but be wary of the mana cost, so use it sparingly. When facing single target comps, your healing changes a little. You will first want to make sure you have Atonement up on the target under focus, and at least 1 Purge the Wicked out. And then you can use Penance defensively to do a lot of burst healing, and cast Shadow Mends to top them. Using Radiance again as an instant heal to top them off when you are unable to get casts off. Alright guys, that just about wraps up this Get Started Disc Priest guide. I hope you now have all the information you need to be able to get ahead of the curve going into battle for Azeroth. As always, thanks for watching and be sure to plus skill and leave any comments you still may have below.